Good evening. This is Penelope Flynn, co host, moderator of Discussions from the Other Hood. And I am here this evening on the podcast with Cranston, Otto, and Sonia. And tonight we're going to be talking about backstories and who deserves them. But first, before we get started, as usual, we will talk a little bit about our weather. And Cranston, you're a top right this evening. So go ahead and tell us, how is the weather in your side of the world?
Yeah, every day this week we have had freezes. It's been like in the lower, very low 30s, and it usually warms up to the tolerable 60s by the middle of the day. Right now it's 61, so it's a lot of people are saying, "Yeah, I'm not going outside today," but it has been really bad, bad.
I mean, that sounds tolerable to me. Not bad at
Well,
all. I mean, that
yeah,
sounds
but
like good
it's
weather.
Florida, so
Yeah, okay,
yeah,
you're right.
it's good, but
Yeah,
Florida,
but
hey,
you're North Florida.
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
okay. Uh,
yeah.
But what's on the horizon? Because I know for us that belt of bad weather came through with the snow and everything. I know some people. I know Atlanta got snow. I know you
Hmm.
all, although northern of Florida, I'm sure you didn't get any snow. But did you get any precipitation, anything cold like that?
No rain at all, and it varies. The last time it got cold enough that we had, it wasn't exactly snow, but everything was frozen, and that was '89. That's the last time that it ever got that cold. So,
So other than that, nothing, huh?
but other than that, nothing. It's just enough to complain about. Like me, that said it's first day of spring will be March 21st. So I'm going, come on, March.
Oh man, I mean, I'm sorry. I kind of liked getting some of the winter weather, and I was a little disappointed, that we didn't get better snow.
Hmm.
You can
So,
have ours.
okay, well, I don't want your snow. I just want yours. Okay. Okay, and I'll just roll on into you, Sonia. So, what did you all get?
It wasn't bad for the area. It was only like 2 inches of snow, but it hasn't gotten above. Supposedly today it got to 30. I didn't see it or I didn't feel it.
Okay.
But because that would have been the highest so far. Tomorrow's supposed to get up to a balmy 35. So
So, how long have you all
Hmm.
been hovering around freezing and below freezing?
all week,
Wow.
all week. Yeah, and it's just gonna peak. It just peaked above freezing for tomorrow and Monday. Then it goes right back down, and then it's back up again on Friday and Saturday, and then back down again.
Wow.
So,
How were you all able to maintain like the cooling heating stuff? I mean, is it hard to do when it's yo-yoing like that?
I put it on the thermostat on 70. I don't touch it. If it gets colder than that or whatever in the house, or it feels colder, I just grab more blankets right now,
Oh.
and
Because
I
I know
don't go outside. That's the
because I know
easiest to do is not go outside.
So is your house brick or is it other construction?
I think it's brick, but it's an older house. So you can, if there's a draft, you'll feel it in the house. So we just don't go to those places in the house.
But
Um,
our house is brick and it holds the temperature, whatever it is. So if during the day it got really hot, then at night it starts to expel that heat. And so if it's been a hot day at night, it's going to be hot. Or a cold
yeah,
day at night, it's going to be cold because by the time we get to the evening, that the house starts to whatever it was that it grabbed during the day is starting to expel it at night.
it holds on to heat. Whatever, if heat comes in, heat stays in.
How about when it's cool? Do your cool stay in or you lose the cool?
They lose the cool. It's been pretty comfortable inside the house. It's
All
just when
right.
you step out to take out the garbage and you forget that it's 20 degrees, feels like
Yeah.
8.
Yeah. Okay.
And
All right. All right.
the snow is still there. So,
Wow.
it's been cold enough to stay on the ground. And when the street plows came through, there was this nice sheen of white that they couldn't completely get rid of.
Well, that's nice. I mean, it looks, snowy and pretty and stuff like that. I wish that ours had maintained for a while because I like the look of it. I know that I'll let you go ahead, Otto, and do your discussion of the weather. You probably don't agree, but I kind of like the look of it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree because it's kind of messy. I haven't been to work since Wednesday, so it was pretty good. Sleep in and stuff like a school day. But the city has any sort of ice or snow, the city shuts down and school shuts down and stuff like that. And it's kind of
Yeah,
cold. And this upcoming week, it's going to be 60 degrees. So
yeah.
I would have thought instead of schools shutting down, they'd say, "Okay, we can go remote again."
But
I
I
heard.
think that they are not. They unfortunately don't have the forethought to be prepared for that. That they would have everything set up so the kids could, go to school on those days. And I guess another issue was like one of the things I think was a big deal is that they thought that we might lose power. So I
Yeah, I
guess
did.
since we thought the possibility of losing power, they didn't want to set up for that.
Yeah, I did see your governor going on news stuff saying it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah, and it was fine, but at first we didn't know. We had no idea one way or the other whether or not it would pan out well, but it did. All right. So with all that said, I guess we can get on to the issue of who it is that deserves a backstory. And as things go, sometimes we're talking at the end of the show after we've gone off, and bandying about certain issues. And I think we touched on one of these issues, about people having these backstories. How we watch a show, and an individual is not a main character. They're this really great supporting character, and then all of a sudden the writers or the producers, whoever, decides that we need to know everything about this person, and that somehow will add to our enjoyment of the show. And like I would say, 90% of the time, that does not happen. And so we want to talk about that when we're watching these shows. When they do have a character that may be a supporting character, who is it that actually deserves these extended backstories? Um, is there any show in particular that any of you all, has watched and you think this show is doing quite well? Then all of a sudden, somebody decided that this individual needed to have their entire life story put into this program, and it didn't do anything to add to anything. In fact, probably made things worse. Um, does
well,
anybody?
the DC universe does that a lot, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like that there's a backstory. There's a series for Alfred, and there's a series for each individual villain for Batman, and there's a lot of backstory stuff going on there.
Yeah.
And the question becomes, how much is too much? Commissioner Gordon has a backstory. Every single character has a backstory.
I say this, and we've said this and discussed it. I mean, from my perspective, sometimes enough is too much. But maybe you all disagree. Maybe you all like the concept of, adding backstories, significant backstories to the supporting characters. What say you? Does anyone else have an opinion on it?
Well,
Well,
sometimes
go ahead.
I was gonna say sometimes it's great if they're a mystery. I didn't need to know all that stuff about Alfred. It was enough to know that he was there. He had this. You knew he had this mysterious side to him that completely baffled Batman, and that was perfectly, or Bruce Wayne, which is perfectly okay with me. It would have been interesting to know why the Waynes thought that the butler would make a better guardian for them than like any other relative. Because usually, if there's an orphan, he's shipped off to his uh, closest relative.
Yeah, but I think in Batman, the presumption is that he didn't have any. I never saw them ever talk about Bruce Wayne having any other relatives. And I think that that was why it was that the relationship with him and Robin was such a big deal because they were both these orphans whose entire families, had been killed.
But
Yeah.
usually, especially somebody that rich, somebody's going to pop out of the woodwork. Say, I'm the second cousin removed and all of this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
And there were
Yeah, and
no contention.
it was
Mm-hmm.
kind of odd that you would have no other brothers and sisters on either side of the family. They had only children, just decided to get married, and that was it. And they had no close friends or anybody else that they would they would even consider becoming a guardian for their child. Now, in the
Mm-hmm.
case of Alfred, it was kind of good to retcon a lot of stuff because then you found out that he was a battlefield medic, so he could patch up, all of the really not life-threatening injuries that Batman would sustain in the course of his activities, and also it would be somebody who could kind of understand what he was doing, even if he didn't always approve of it. So that was the case of a backstory that sort of added depth and believability to the character.
I, for
But
one, like Pennyworth. I love the show Pennyworth. So
yeah,
because also it was less of a. It's almost like you said retconning completely
mhm,
the role of Alfred because I don't know. Do I watch Pennyworth? Have you all watched Pennyworth at all?
mm.
An episode or so.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna spoil anything. But
Yeah.
it's a very different.
I mean, it
I
made
really love
sense.
that
I would have wanted to know more about the Waynes. Why did the Waynes trust him? Did he not have godparents, or Bruce not have godparents? Because you would have thought he would have had a godparent, or
Well, you don't
was
see any.
Alfred his?
You
show.
don't see any other Wayne people
No,
throughout
not Pennyworth
the the entire Batman.
canon at all.
Yeah, you don't see any.
Yeah.
You don't see them.
Not that I know. If somebody else was listening and they know that there's some uncle or aunt or long lost brother or something. But I have not seen anything that suggests that there was any other individual in the Wayne family that would have taken care of this child or that they trusted to take care of their child.
Well, interestingly, it was something they dropped as a kind of a thing about. I don't know how they came up with this, or who decided to do that, but they kind of established that Bruce Wayne is Catholic, so that meant he would have had godparents somewhere, unless they died, before before he was 8 years old, and his parents never decided to replace him. But didn't have any standby ones, so.
Hmm. I don't know. You know, I mean, I guess it's an issue also of trust. Who do you trust with your child? You
Mhm.
know, I mean, people, the godparents would be friends or distant relatives, but this is a person that knows everything about your child, grew up in the household with your child. Yeah, I mean, I would trust the person that my nanny or housekeeper probably more than I would trust a distant relative to take care of my child.
But on the other hand, it was established in the comics along the way that Alfred wasn't exactly a mercenary, but he did have like combat experience doing that. So I guess they would say, well, this is somebody who would be able to protect him as he
Right.
grew up, or even better than that, would say, well, let's not take a shortcut through crime alley at night, or something like that.
Yeah. We can say we are going to give them touch high marks for judgment. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, but still, that may be it. They don't get high marks for judgment. But I would think, but I do like Pennyworth. I would suggest if you can watch it that you should. I
Hmm.
really like the show a lot because the Waynes, of course, are in the story, but
I
it's
mean,
it's Alfred's story.
but does Commissioner Gordon need a backstory?
Well, the only backstory was it a Gotham
Yeah.
that has Commissioner Gordon's
It
backstory.
was supposed to be his complete backstory, but it became the whole Rogues Gallery's backstories.
Exactly. See, thus, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You know, that we
Now,
get a story that's supposed to be good, and we started. I mean, and I loved Robin Lord as Penguin. I thought he was fantastic, and I hate that I can't remember, but I'll look it up right quick. the actor who played the Riddler, excellent. I mean, they were excellent. And Jada Pinkett as Fish Mooney, my gosh, she
Hmm.
wore it out. Wore
Well,
it out.
but the thing about Alfred's backstory is it
Mhm.
tended to be so considerate because at one point he was married, then his wife had left him with his, and then in the movies he had a son, but he didn't have Barbara. And sometimes we have Barbara, and sometimes we don't have Barbara. And so it's sort of, hit or miss. And they just sort of, they don't do so much as retcon these things. They
Mhm.
just don't mention the characters anymore,
Right.
So they just
Well,
kind of disappear.
I thought it was very interesting that most recent iteration of Batman, the animated one, what is it called, Batman, the Cape, was it the Cape Crusader?
K Crusader, yeah.
Cape Crusader, that they aged up Barbara because in
Hmm.
Batman the Animated Series, the suggestion was that Batman had a relationship with Barbara Gordon, who was supposed to be the same age group as Dick Grayson, which was really
Hmm.
vomitations for me, in all honesty.
Hmm.
So they tried to act like that nastiness never happened, and aged her up, and then pushed back on the even the concept that there was a relationship. That is
Hmm.
more like working. She was actually as you would say, these detectives are, that they look at him as the enemy. Kind of like what is uh what is in the Green Hornet.
Hmm.
He's a criminal, he's a vigilante, and they really, I think, went hard on that, and which I think is cool. But I think it's much better that if they ever thought about doing some craziness like putting them in a relationship, that she has been aged up appropriately, because I just thought that that was cringy what they had done in Batman the Animated Series
Yeah,
with
it
that.
kind of makes you
I mean,
wonder, do they ever discuss those things when they're doing these stories? Said, well, how old is she supposed to be, and
yeah,
why
and
are
they
we
know.
doing this?
Yeah, I thought it's just. I mean, to me, it's just absolutely vulgar. I mean, are there no women in the room to tell you that that may not go over well? Why? If you're dating or supposedly almost dating Dick Grayson, would you date
Hmm.
Bruce Wayne? I mean, that's kind of like ill.
And also kind of takes her agency out of it. Says, well, didn't she say that I don't think we should do this or something, or why did she think it was such a good idea? So.
I mean, the thing is that people will always say, well, it's because this, or that's because of that, because this or that. And my response to that is always, somebody had to write this. So no
Hmm.
excuses. Not this thing, oh, this because this happened. Nope, it happened because somebody wrote this. And somebody let that go and did not think about the fact that, you know, that's kind of cringy to me.
Hmm.
You know? I mean, you can't find no grown ass woman, like Selena Kyle, that he was dating some grown ass woman to hook him up with some girl. I thought, no, 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 no. So yeah, I do like it when things are, corrected, as I would like to say, in that sense. But again, we get this new Batman Rogues Gallery where they've, changed up some people's the sex of some of the characters. They have changed up people's I guess their focus. We had, Harley Quinn, who is different than the Harley Quinn that was introduced in Batman the Animated Series, which I thought was great. Very good Harley Quinn. They've kind of gone really rogue with that character. I think this new Harley Quinn still, it could have used some more work on it, but I think they're trying to do something different with it, and I think that's fine. To make her not the Joker's uh, sidekick, but a villain in her own right.
Hmm.
Well, that's why she was created in the Batman animated series. People forget
Right,
that she was actually created for the series, then went over
right.
to the comic books.
Hmm.
So they've had more time now that we're not in the rush of having to make episodes, let's really look at the character.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was brilliant. in Batman the Animated Series. I thought they did a great job with her as the sidekick to Joker. And one of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite episodes is where Harley Quinn decides that, enough of this, that Batman always, doing all these horrible things to Joker and getting him, arrested, put back in Arkham or whatever. And she made her own plan to get him. And unlike the Joker, Harley Quinn actually got Batman. And she, basically turned him over to the Joker. And of course, he was furious that she actually caught the Batman, that she was smarter than he was, with
Mhm.
regard to putting together the trap to set to get. And I mean, and he was as furious at her. No, you don't catch him. I catch him. So
Mhm.
it was really interesting, that whole dynamic that she's going to do this thing for him. She's tired of Batman, getting, getting the drop on the Joker. And he did not appreciate it at all that she
Mhm.
was able to do that. So I did like that. And I do like some of the backstory stuff, but I'm glad in a way this new Batman, I don't think they go so far. They have not gone so far back in people's backgrounds. They have not been too much backstory. I don't need to see a whole, Harley Quinn show come out of this because you have to tell me all about her childhood and everything. I don't need to know that. We don't get that in Batman the Animated Series, and it's just fine. We know about her career as a psychiatrist and then what happens to her after that. But that was fine. I mean, I liked that a lot. It worked out, very well for me. But this new one, I like the fact that we get a little tease a little bit. We don't need a whole lot. I remember we used to what is the show Torchwood? That is another show that suffered from too much information about the main characters, their backstories and all this kind of stuff. Their secondary characters and stuff. I mean, it just became insufferable. I just could not deal
Mhm.
with it anymore. So, well, it started out really good, but then it was just awful. Um, and I would say as we talk about some of these BBC shows, so that um,
Well,
Being Human. Yeah, go ahead.
I would talk about before we leave the DC
Hmm.
universe. You have Batman, which has been mind over mind, but you have Superman. You don't necessarily get a lot of backstory, just a retelling of
Hmm.
the same story over and over. I mean, there's no Perry Mason show that I'm aware of.
You mean
Perry White.
Perry White,
Perry
excuse me,
White?
Perry
Yeah,
White.
Perry
Yeah.
White. Okay, I say
Yeah.
okay, Perry Mason.
Perry
Well,
Mason, he has a different show.
that's
But you
because
don't get
Yeah,
Perry
the
White.
crazy
You
thing
don't get a
about
whole lot of.
yeah.
What is Perry White's story? Nobody. Is anyone interested in Perry White's story?
No.
well, the crazy thing about Superman is that his story changes and is retconned in perpetuity. Like one time, at one point, he's the only survivor of Krypton. Then you find
Hmm.
out that, of course, there is his cousin who was sent to be
Right.
his caretaker. Blah blah blah.
Hmm.
Then you find out, sometimes crypto is there, sometimes crypto isn't there. There's He has the city of Kandor, which is the only remaining other Kryptonians in his fortress. Then sometimes he doesn't. They have the people in the Phantom Zone can pop in and out as needed sometimes. So, which has to be a kind of a paranoid thing to know that there are people who can watch you 24 hours a day, whatever. So, um, it decides. I think at one time they killed Supergirl during the '85
Hmm.
revamp. Then she reappeared again as somebody else. Then it's just so inconsistent which one it's going to be. It's like this week this is the backstory, and then next week it's not, and you just don't mention anything that happened before.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the people in the Superman universe aren't that interesting. I mean, that you want to know their
Well, they
backstories.
did do a back. They did do that. I think it was a 2 season series, Krypton. I think it was on
Yeah.
Sci-Fi
Yeah.
Channel, and it
Yeah.
was interesting to see the family's background as
Hmm.
opposed to the individual characters. So you got to
Right.
see what Krypton was like and why, I think they had retconned that the reason why Superman had all of this capabilities because he was the first natural born. They had used science to replicate kids for whatever personality and trait beforehand, but the reason why his parents had always been shunned because as a scientist they wanted to see what would happen if you leave it all to chance, and so they
Mm.
didn't use the science to breed out this trait or breed in this trait or whatever. So he was
Gattaca
actually a
on
combat.
Krypton.
Yeah, he was actually a combination of them all because they didn't do the selective breed genetic
Hmm.
components part of it. And
Yeah,
he was the
but
only one that was pretty. He and Kara were the only ones who were pretty sane. Yeah.
but
Then
it's
later
all
they had to recon it to say, "Oh no, we Kara is also part of this program." That he made
Hmm.
he tricked his parent, his brother. Jor-El tricked his brother into doing it too.
yeah, but there's something also that DC tends to do that with all of their characters. Like look at the Flash. Like we had first there was
Hmm.
Flash Barry Allen, then we had his girlfriend Iris's
Hmm.
nephew becomes Kid Flash the same
Hmm.
way.
Hmm.
Then this was back in the 50s before they came up with the Speed Force, which explained what happened. Then they went to all of the descendants of the Flash in the future. Then after they killed off Barry Allen in the 85 revamp, they allowed him to grow up so that he became the Flash. Then he got married. Then he had children, and so on and so forth. And they just sort of bring in, like characters like that, and then they will decide, okay, it's Tuesday, time for another reboot, and then they change
Yeah.
everything again. So,
Because the other Flash is Wally,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. And in the TV series, it's
Hmm.
Iris's brother.
Hmm.
Wally is Iris's brother,
Hmm.
not her cousin or nephew
Hmm.
or whatever.
Is
Yeah.
that a backstory though, or is that more of a just switching like
Canon. Yeah, just switching the canon.
Well,
Because,
it was a backstory because you had to explain how Barry was supposed to be one of a kind,
hmm,
and only his children could possibly because he was the one who had mutated. They had to explain why all of these other characters now have the
yeah.
the thing in them.
And then they have these extra dimensional flashes as well,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know, who are coming over from other dimensions. So that's another thing, that we add in order to explain all these different individuals. The same thing, of course, they do with, I think, one of the ultimate backstory projects is the multiverse with Spider-Man, the
Hmm.
Spider-Verse, where you have all these extra characters. And I got to tell you, the second Spider-Man film, I thought the animated, version with not Peter Parker, but um,
Miles.
Miles
Miles
Morales.
Morales, the Miles Morales version. That uh, why is it that for the first almost half of the second film, they're talking about Gwen Stacy? Why I mean, she is, in my mind, again, backstory, but supporting character. I don't need Gwen Stacy's backstory. I could have lived without Gwen Stacy showing up in the film at all, except again as supporting character that she should have been. But I'm watching the film like, I'm sorry, why am I seeing half of this film with Gwen Stacy? This is
Well,
not what I came to see.
it could have been the ultimate fan service because there was Gwen before you had MJ. So that was kind of like saying, well, we'll give her something to do, except this time, spoiler alert for something that happened 50 years ago, but this time we're not going to kill her off. So,
Yeah, but still supporting character.
yeah.
She did not, the first half of the Miles Morales film did not have to be about Gwen Stacy. I was very irritated about that. And then you have all these other individuals who are flying in from the multiverse, they're the Spider Verse, that they have to explain who they are and show little snippets of who they are. It's like, for heaven's sakes, why couldn't they just left it alone? That's like one of the ultimate irritations in
Well, I
that
think it was
film.
supposed to be answered in the second movie, which was supposed to come out soon after the third movie, which was supposed to come out soon after the second, and for whatever reason, it's been held up.
Well, you know what? That's the same thing I
Was
said
yeah,
about the third Matrix. That the second Matrix, well, it's just obviously something really
yeah.
important is going to happen, and it's like,
And
no,
then, no, yeah,
it's just bad. That's all. It's just bad.
because
And
I
Well,
said
I'm not going to give
something
and
people
supposedly
excuses.
happened.
Yeah, I'm not giving
well,
people excuses for putting together bad stuff anymore.
well, in the case of the Spider Verse, is they're looking also at setups for sequels because I think they're supposed to be
Hmm.
doing one with Nicolas Cage doing the voice of the black and white
That's
Spider-Man
actually
from
it's
the
live
first
action.
and the
Actually, it's in
second.
development already.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
so
the Spider Noir is already in production, and supposedly they're also supposed to be setting up so that Gwen and Miles comes over to the MCU in live action.
Interesting. I think. I think it's interesting. I hope it's
Well,
interesting.
the fun part is the lady who does the voice for Gwen is Hawkeye's protege in already in the MCU, so she'd have to be playing two different roles, which they can explain in the multiverse too. Two people who look alike
yeah.
aren't necessarily the same person.
Okay, so which protege is this? The Hawkeye protege.
Hawkeye, there's I just forgot her. Haley Stanfield. I'm trying to remember. Kate Bishop in the Hawkeye's
Okay,
TV series.
okay.
She took over, and now she's officially Hawkeye. But now they're talking about doing a Hawkeye second season in which the two of them go after whoever the big bad is. They haven't decided on who the big bad is,
Mm,
but they're trying to lead everything up so that they can eventually have what they're now going to call the champions, because they can't call them Young Avengers because they don't want to mess up that trademark and label, because people associate a certain group with the Avengers.
right.
Um, so there's supposed to be more rhyme and reason for the Spider Verse, animated Spider Verse, than there was for the live action Spider Man.
Mm.
In theory,
Well, I guess one of the problems that people have, and I know I saw it when I looked at the comic book, because my sons, read the Spider-Man comic book, is that the character Ned that they have in the live action version of Spider-Man with Peter Parker is actually a character from the Miles
Mhm.
Morales Spider-Man. I mean,
Mhm.
in fact, the actor that they're playing him in the live action film looks exactly like the character from the Miles Morales version of the comic book. And what they've done is kind of grabbed some of the plot and character from the Miles Morales version and kind of blended it into the Peter Parker Spider-Man. So it's going to be interesting to see, how they deal with that. I mean, even I like the fact, as we're talking about it, the Spider-Verse thing, the live action, like you have a character like Ned, right? His man in the chair, guy in the chair. You don't know anything really about him. That's great.
Hmm.
You don't need, all you need to know is what you need to know. I
And
need to
that's
know,
part. Yeah,
yeah.
I was gonna say that's part of the reason why the live action Spider Man adjacent films didn't work, is because you couldn't see any of the characters' connection to Spider Man. You knew because you watched the comic books, read the comic books, that they were all Spider Man villains, but then they never connected them to Spider Man. So it's like, well, why do we care if he's never going to interact with Spider Man?
I don't know.
Mobius and Craven, Madam
Well, yeah,
Web,
well, that's kind of really weird to me. Like you said, that Madam Web and Craven, it's like these are all, and what that Michael uh Morpheus character,
Mobius, yeah.
Michael Morpheus. He, I saw that film and I'm like, okay,
Well, what Sony had
I
told,
know what they're
yeah,
thinking.
Sony told everybody it's because we can't use Peter Parker unless it's connected to the MCU. However, people have done investigation into all their contracts. They could have tied any one of those characters to any version of Spider-Man that they had access to. They could have tied it to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. They could have tied them to Toby's Spider-Man, and they only did that in that one in the No Way Home movie, but they didn't do it with the rest of the universes.
I just I just don't understand
Madam
why.
Web was
Yeah.
supposed to be
hmm
Peter Parker's godmother.
I don't know. I mean,
Or
when I watched with the cartoon,
yeah,
they had Madam Web, but they never described her as such. She's just like the
yeah. I'm
mysterious
saying, but in the
character that comes
movie
in.
universe,
hmm
they introduced all the characters, but didn't connect them. They took away the connector, and which made it have no sense. It's like I don't care about their backstories unless that has a direct influence on the connector.
I don't know. I didn't see Madam Web, and I heard that it was okay, but I never. Those things I just had not gotten to see yet, but I should, I guess. Um, but I just think that again, like we have individuals, and I don't know who the. Did you see it? Either of y'all, both of y'all seen
I
Madam
saw
Web?
enough to realize that it was not going to do. It was going to do just like the others. Be every time they would mention, "Oh, the baby's name is Peter," something interrupts. It's like, no, connect them.
Yeah, just do it. Stop being
Just
funny.
do it.
Don't be
And
clever.
Why?
Just
Why is
do
this?
it.
Tell me why this character is so important that you had to
hmm
make a full movie on him, and it better be connected to Peter Parker or Miles
and
Morales at that point.
it's
Someone.
another backstory thing because all you knew from the beginning was that Aunt May, and you have to ask yourself, well, Aunt May has always, except for some cases, looked like she was like 80 years old or something like that. So you have to
Yes.
wonder, well, how old was Peter's mother, and was that his mother's sister, or was that
Aunt
his father's
or his
sister?
mother's aunt. Like instead of being
Yeah,
their parents, that
and
there's like their.
and we never knew what happened to his parents. And so, depending on
hmm
which Spider-Man we have, either his parents were scientists who may or may not be dead, who may or may not been government agents, who may or may not been whatever, something like that. And it also goes along with the trope that happens with stories that would depend on relatives that you never knew about that all of a sudden show up. And the rule is, of course, if the relative is somebody who shows up in the show that's a comedy, zaniness happens. And if the show is a drama, sadness happens. And, you can just count on that. But it's never somebody sad who shows up in the comedy or somebody zany who shows up in the drama.
Mm.
And also, the aunt and uncle gets younger and younger every time, every incarnation. They get younger and younger, and you're like, wait, how is this possible?
Yeah.
Well, I guess the question I would have is that okay, you have Uncle Ben and Aunt May, but I'm trying to think about them ever mentioning Uncle Ben in the current live action.
And when he's packing his suitcase for the trip, the suitcase has the initials BEP, so you knew it was Uncle Ben's suitcase that he was using.
But I don't recall them were talking about her husband.
Yeah, that was
Or
the
what,
only. Yeah, that
Mhm.
was the only.
or whether she is a widow. That we never know whether she's just some different aunt. You know what I mean? Than the
That's
person that's
yeah.
married to him. So I
That
don't
was
know. I
the
mean,
only reference because she looks at it lovingly and oh yeah, you're using his suitcase, and that's all they say.
Hmm.
so
Because
we,
because
so we
you
don't
all
know if it's
know
her
But you
dad. We don't
never,
know if it's her dad or her husband, right? Or
Right.
something like that.
but you don't know
because
what
you all know
hmm
anybody know what Uncle Ben did for a living, or what Aunt May
According
did
to
for a
Mad,
living, or
I
see
was,
them
gonna s-
do it,
I
or
was saying,
he was
according to Madam Web, he was a EMT.
anybody ever see him perform any EMT duties, or Aunt May, what does she do? I mean, some I guess some characters are worth drilling down into, and others aren't, and sometimes you don't care, right?
And I
Right.
guess by the time when we started watching Spider-Man, we were kids. That Aunt May was already elderly, so
hmm
we
Yeah,
presumed
she
that
was real
she
old.
was
Yeah, she was.
retired. So we didn't even
Yeah,
think about what she did before that. We just
right.
said, old retired lady.
But now she's younger now, right?
Right, right. So I don't know. In fact, what does the current Aunt May do? Is she a nurse or something? What does she do?
She was the executive director of a charity. helping homeless and et cetera, et cetera.
Says
Uh,
who?
uh,
No
I
Way
think that
Home.
was at the. I think that was at the
The
very. Yeah,
last,
it was
yeah.
the last thing. I mean, and not any of
Well,
the previous ones. I didn't really know what she
in the
did. I thought.
previous one, he showed up at one of her benefits.
Mm-hmm.
He and Stark gives a check for the charity, and then they finally show her working at it in the last movie.
And living in
Show what her
Queens.
position was at in it, as
Right,
opposed to just being working there.
right.
We don't really
And, and,
know.
yeah,
I don't know.
living
I thought she was.
and living in Queens.
Yes.
It's like you need to be part of the charity, maybe.
Well, see, that's for people who don't live in New York City, who have absolutely no
Mm-hmm.
idea what New York City really is. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the standard line they always use on any version of Law and Order, where they give out an address, and somebody will always say, "Yeah, that's in the middle of the East River." Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Exactly.
mean James just say that a lot. That the address
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of the East River, but there's things that people do who live in Queens, and there are things that people do who live in parts of Brooklyn,
Mm-hmm.
Manhattan, and the Bronx. It's just weird. You're just making stuff up that don't make sense.
Yeah, but I mean, but I think, I guess we think about the Aunt May. I was going to go back to say that the one thing I do like is that they never really drill down very deep, because you don't need to know all
Mhm.
that stuff about her. You
No,
don't
I
need
mean
to know.
I don't really care to be honest about Uncle Ben or Aunt May.
Yeah, but I think what they wanted to do with Aunt May is to establish her as her own person, that she wasn't relying on anyone else for money or anyone else for, support, that she was doing it on her own,
Well, it
and
seems
that.
like in the first canon of Spider-Man that
Mhm.
he had to get a job at the Daily Bugle because
He
they
had to
needed the
support his
extra
aunt.
money. Yeah.
And of course, they had no insurance for when Uncle Ben died, so
In this, I have not seen a Spider-Man in a while, but he doesn't have a job yet, does he? He's working with Stark stuff, correct? He doesn't work for the Bugle, does he?
No, he was still in high school.
Yeah,
He was when the movie series started. He was a sophomore,
yeah,
and then he almost graduated because by the last movie, because
yeah,
they were
because he
all
had
trying to
been
get into college.
away. Because
Right.
he had been one of the people that had been, zapped, away. So he
yeah,
had to come back later, which is kind of weird. Because how long were they gone?
5 years.
5 years.
But all the people in his group rise was
Did
gone too.
they
They were
all went?
all, yeah. All his clique,
Yeah.
Flash, what's his name? Flash or whatever his name
Hmm.
was. MJ
Hmm.
and
Flash
uh
Thompson.
Flash
yeah,
Thompkins and
and all of them, anybody who
Ned,
was in his arena,
his inner
they had
circle,
yeah,
they were all zapped.
right.
Okay, that makes
Did they all
sense.
go to the same? They went to the same high school. Did they go to the same college too?
Ned and MJ did. I don't remember where any of the others went to. Ned and MJ went to MIT.
Did
Yeah.
they go to Peter's college?
Peter, remember at the end of No Way Home, nobody remembers Peter, so Peter didn't. Peter had to start all over again and get his GED because there was
Yeah.
no record of Peter Parker.
So did he go to college then?
We didn't get to see. We just saw the GED book.
Yeah. That the presumption was that he would go, but definitely wouldn't be MIT. So another
Well,
part of the
that'd be silly
sacrifice for
because
everybody.
MIT would be another in Boston. So
Yeah, but
Yeah.
also I think also what they're trying to do too, maybe they thought out the fact that they're going to separate him and Ironheart. That Ironheart is Stark's protege,
Yeah.
so
in
they'd
this
be in
world.
two different locations,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. He's going to City College or Hudson University.
which is Columbia University. But how come no one goes to DC? Nobody wants to go to Georgetown or Johns Hopkins or nothing.
Well, places like that always get blown up if there's an Avenger nearby.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
That's a good way to look at it.
that's basically the plot line of the Captain America movie coming up. They
Okay.
destroy most of DC, so maybe his
Nobody
Yeah.
wants to
spider
go
Right.
sense
to.
his spider
Nobody wants to
senses
go to
told him not to
any
go
of
to
the other.
DC.
I may not go there.
No one wants to go to any of the West Coast schools or anything, right?
Nobody
They've
goes to
never showed
Stanford. There's nothing going
they've
on over
never
there.
showed any of the West. Supposedly, there's a West Coast adventure. I know that there is in the comic books, but
Well,
they've
the
never
Punisher is
showed
the only.
them in
Yeah.
action.
The Punisher's the only person that goes to the West Coast,
Well,
right?
Yeah.
no, there's
DC
supposed
is
to be There's supposed to be West Coast Avengers too, where Vision, Hawkeye eventually gets over there, Wonder Man, and I can't remember who else is part of the West Coast Avengers team, but they
yeah.
haven't shown them in action yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the only person I
DC is
know that's over there in the Marvel universe that goes to California is the Punisher.
Well, Wonder Man's there because he's a Hollywood actor.
I
yeah.
think his.
DC is
Wait,
a
wait, wait,
little
wait! No, no, no,
better.
no, no! It's not the Punisher. Not the Punisher. Who is it? It's not the Punisher. Venom,
And so,
right?
and
Venom.
and She-Hulk is over there in the MCU.
Yeah, you're right. She-Hulk too. She-Hulk and
Yeah.
Venom.
DC is a
That's
little
what it
better at spreading their people out.
is.
So
Yeah, I mean, but where is it that crime happens? It's like there's a lot of crime happening in Jacksonville. That you need a superhero. Do you need a superhero dedicated
But you
to
know what?
Jacksonville
But think
or
about
to,
it.
or
You've
to
got
Rochester? There's
yeah,
a lot of
but
crime.
think about it. They create Sunnydale in California, right? And they created a town to have
mhm,
all the Hellmouth, so you could do that, right?
It's a different kind,
mhm.
but it's not crime. It's
It's not
supernatural.
crime. Well, killing people is crimes. That's
But
killing people
supernaturally
is
killing people.
crimes, but it's still crime to kill
Yeah.
people.
If you got stuff that people want,
Yeah.
you're gonna live in different places like
Hmm.
I don't know, LA, Chicago.
We'll see what happens when they reboot the MCU.
What about if they
But
commit
see,
if you have these people and they're just like the Batman who goes around stopping people who commit petty crimes, and that you have a
mhm,
petty crime superhero and all they
What a
do is
waste
steal
of
petty
time.
crime.
He's not gonna fly. He's
well,
just gonna walk on the street.
It's saying
but
we're
see,
gonna
the
steal
bad thing
crime.
is,
Walk a beat like
well,
a
see,
cop.
Yeah.
the bad thing is the tallest building in Jacksonville is only 35 stories. So if you were perched up on the top of that, everybody would see you. So
Hey, there, look at that guy up there.
you can't
Yeah.
swoop down from 35 stories and stuff. So okay, yeah. So
Yeah,
I think
people would notice if there was a crime hero in Tallahassee and the highest hill point is on top of FAMU's administration building. Hey, there's a white
mm,
guy on top of the FAMU building.
What's going on?
yeah,
I think probably most of the crimes like that in places like that happen indoors, right? So it's not like somebody's going to do something like that. That guy shot that United Healthcare
Yeah.
CEO.
Yeah.
Outside.
mhm,
It's
But see, that would
not-
have been the Punisher or somebody like Daredevil to take care of that.
Yeah.
Because they're the street
yeah,
level people.
Yeah.
Marvel
Okay.
thought about it. Marvel did give street level people to fight those types of. Spider-Man's supposed to be a street level. It's only and actually they
Okay.
were saying that the 3 films we saw that was his new origin story since they weren't going to talk about the bite. They're showing how this kid had all this great technology and then came down to be the neighborhood Spider-Man.
mhm.
It's really neighborhood Spider-Man. So what if you had that it's in Jacksonville and Tallahassee? There's somebody who just dealt with, regular crimes. Like, hey, stop shoplifting.
Yeah.
Well,
What?
he would be picking up drunks after a homecoming or something like
Right,
that.
right,
So
right.
yeah.
So I mean, that would be a
Here's a
superhero kind of
ticket.
thing.
You were parked at this meter illegally and stuff. Here's your ticket. So
Yeah, and the police would be mad. They stop doing our job, vigilante.
yeah,
Cut it out.
because we wouldn't have anything else to do.
That's right. You keep doing our job. You try to run us out of our employment. He'd be like a sought after, hunted down by the police to stop doing
mhm,
their job because he keeps taking their money.
But going back to the origins thing, I mean,
Yes.
there's
Yeah.
never been a Perry White show, right?
Not, but I remember, what is it, in one of the animated series, I think of the Spider-Man. I remember his son was an
I mean,
astronaut or something
Superman,
like that.
Perry White.
Perry White. I'm thinking the other. I'm thinking Jonah Jameson.
Well,
Yeah.
there's been no Joe.
The
There's been no
closest,
Joe. There's been no J. Jonah Jason show either, has there?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, in the Spider-Man show where they talked about his son being an astronaut, remember?
mhm.
And or
Yeah,
something like that. So that's the only backstory. You didn't get anything about his wife or home or anything, but you did know that
the
he did have a son, an adult son.
the closest thing they did to it was in I think it was in the mid 80s. They did this big thing where they were going to revamp Superman, and Alan Moore did a two-part story called "Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow," and the plot was that all of Superman's enemies started showing up, and they were going to kill off all the people he knew, and so he had gathered them all together to protect them. And the two of the people he got together with was Perry, and we finally met Perry's wife, and it turns out that they were going through some things. So of course, just when somebody is out to kill them and stuff, they're going through like marital troubles and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And so that was the closest we ever got to finding out anything about what happened when he wasn't at the planet, so.
And,
Okay.
and then J. Jonah Jameson, you know, throughout the Spider-Man universe or canon, he's an
Mhm.
a-hole, and we
Yeah.
don't get
Mhm.
to find out why he's an a-hole, and we really don't care that much, right? We just know that he's
Right. He's a jerk that hates Spider-Man for unknown reasons.
Yeah.
So yeah, that you wonder, why does he hate him so much?
and we don't need to know because
Yeah, it just
it's going to add to the story for us to know why he hates Spider-Man so much, or why he's
no.
so angry all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
is he in pain? Did he need some psychological issues taken care of?
Yeah, take some medication or something to help him get through it or something like that.
Well, another thing we can figure is I think at one time he wanted to hire Spider-Man to be exclusively working for him. He turned him down, so that could have been it, just commercial reasons or something. But it is kind of good that you don't know exactly why,
Hmm.
because the one thing that was good about the first movies was the fact that they did have Robbie Robertson was someone who would kind of talk him down off the ledge every once in a
Hmm.
while, and was somebody who we think that it seemed that Robbie had figured out who
Hmm.
Spider-Man really was, which was kind of good, but he didn't discuss it with Joan or anything like that. So,
They figured this is not going to end well, so
And they
no.
kind of gave Robbie Robertson. They kind of gave his backstory, kind of, but not too much.
Hmm. Yeah, because he had to show why he deserves to be there.
Yeah,
but
he's a
the other
black
thing
guy in the
Hmm. Yeah.
editorial space, but why
Right.
is he there?
Yeah.
the other thing they do with stories, with backstories, is that they will expand the backstories for other characters, and nothing ever happens with it. For example,
Hmm.
in NCIS, we found out somewhere about season 97 or something like that. That can't think, and his name just went out of my head, but that he wrote mysteries and stuff. So we found out he's a mystery writer, and that's it. Nobody ever said that they read any of his books. He never went on a
Hmm.
tour. They never optioned any to make into a series. They
Hmm.
never had a subplot that he was mentioning something in his new book. That came from a case you worked on last year, and you didn't get clearance for that. So we're going to have to pull all the copies of that or something.
Hmm.
So they do things like that. We knew that I can't remember any of the characters' names. We knew that was goth and everything like that, but we didn't know what she did when she wasn't on there. The guy who is the new people there now in the lab, we know a little bit about them that's going on and stuff. but not that. I remember in the NCIS New Orleans, they turned their lab tech guy into an ultra nerd who was one of the ones that would bore everybody with whatever his obsession was. But it was always inconsistent because it was like he liked everything that was nerd like. He still did Dungeons and Dragons. He was a Star Trek and a Star Wars fan. He was doing this, that, and the other. And so they would just throw it up to say, okay, this shows you just how nerdy he is. But it was like inconsistent because generally you might have some of those things that overlap, but not quite like that, so.
Yeah, well, basically what it is that they get this one person and they're gonna dogpile everything onto that individual.
Yeah.
So, all the nerd things are on you.
Is
Nobody
Jimmy
else.
is Jimmy Olsen considered a nerd?
I didn't think so.
He was a kid. He was the kid. You have to have one character that represents the kid's point of view. The golly gee. Which
Yeah, until they got
Supergirl.
to
Who the hell
Supergirl.
thought of that?
Yeah.
And also
Well,
the live action version, from the 1950s, I guess. I'm sorry, that guy seemed like he was like 35.
Yeah, Jack Larson. Jack Larson.
Like,
Jack,
it's
Jack,
like
Larson,
a
Jack
kid I
Larson,
knew.
who did the original George Reeves
Yeah.
Superman, looked like he was pushing near middle age, right?
I know he did not look like a kid at all.
it was that same thing they did on all the episodes of Twilight Zone, where they would have all of these actors from the 50s who were always 35 years old, but they looked a little older than 35.
Yes.
Yeah. Rod Sterling will always say, blah blah blah. 35-year-old ad executive.
Man, we
And
were
that
looking at
dude was
ourselves and
like
say,
in his
my
50s.
gosh, is that how
Yeah.
we're looking now?
Yeah.
Wow.
he had a hard life before he went into the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
So.
Something. And some of these people we looked at and said, man,
But
these
Jimmy
guys were
Olsen,
stomped, beat up, and whooped.
but Jimmy Olsen was supposed to be young, but he wasn't a nerd. So what exactly was he? I mean, it never really did a backstory on him either. Not and whoever may be listening to this, please don't do a Jimmy Olsen backstory.
Well, the closest thing they did on a backstory was in I think it was Superman Returns, where Jimmy was this version of Jimmy Olsen was a super fan of Superman and everything, and it seemed like he to the point that he almost seemed like he had a crush on him or something like that. And they had several other characters that mentioned about how Jimmy never stops talking about him or something like that. So I guess they tried to make him into the ultimate fanboy as standing for the audience or something like that. But
Or
we
maybe
don't know
he could use his friendship with Superman to get girls.
But we don't know anything about his family or parents, so he didn't seem to have any friends.
Yeah,
at the planet.
Where
He didn't have
he
hobbies.
from? Where did he come from? I mean, like, how many people in the superhero, other than Spider-Man and some other people, were born and raised in a city that they're in? I mean, there's Batman, I guess, right? He's
he's
born and
born in
raised.
Gotham City.
Batman, Spider-Man,
Spider-Man,
both Spider-Men.
Spider-Man.
Both Miles Morales was born in Brooklyn.
So how about people like
Miss Marvel,
Daredevil,
Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
Clark Kent wasn't.
No, he's
Kansas. He came from Smallville.
Yeah, but he's also an alien from outer space. So he's
So it's Thor.
Yeah.
But somebody made the point, though, if he came to Earth as an infant, he really didn't remember anything on Krypton. So technically speaking, he came from somewhere else, but he grew up in the heartland. So he's more American. That's why the American way was part of his.
Culturally, however,
he's undocumented.
He is undocumented. However, once he went to the Fortress of Solitude and was able to study his past, and also remember he had all the animals and stuff in this new consideration of Fortress of Solitude, many animals that had come over also from Krypton and other places that he kept in his menagerie.
Mhm.
So,
Don't you think? Then you think that's a little okay? So some people have no backstory, and don't you think some people have a little bit too much backstory, like all this stuff about Superman and his own little place, and he got the people in a jar and all this kind of. Isn't that too much?
Well, it's
I,
because
I,
the characters have
yeah.
been around for like 80 years or something like that, from
Hmm.
1939 till now. And they've had who knows how many writers in between. And whenever an idea came up with something, because there are a lot of things that they have just kind of like disappeared. For example, in the 50s and 60s, there was this big thing about all the different forms of kryptonite. So there was, of course, green kryptonite, which was
Red
fatal,
Kryptonite.
but
Yeah.
red kryptonite was the one that would make him have zany adventures.
Hmm.
And then there was white kryptonite, which
Say
killed.
adventure.
Yeah, in fact, there was one joke that Peter, I can't remember his name, but the writer, and he wrote one where they had one episode where this was Superman had been exposed, and you could not do this today probably, but it was Superman had been exposed to pink kryptonite, and he was standing around, kind of like Jack Benny, saying about how fabulous he thought Lois's outfit was, and this, that, and the other, and stuff.
Oh
And
man,
they
you
said,
know what? I think
probably could not
those
do that
guys
today.
were on acid. They had to be on acid because they
Yeah,
come up with that stuff like Mister Mizzlepick.
Yeah,
You know,
Missile
yeah,
Flicks.
he
Yeah.
you got to
disappeared.
say his name back.
He,
And Bizarro Superman, they were on some
Yes.
yeah.
serious. They were
Bizarro
on some
Superman. That was
serious shit.
crazy,
They were
man.
on some serious shit. They had to be.
Mhm.
They had to be. But you never see any of that come up. Now.
Hmm.
But the different
Well, they
colors
just
of
kind of
kryptonite.
Well, they did do
retcon
like in the
all of
other
that.
in the one where
And,
our kids were young. They did have the Mister Mixoplex
Mhm.
with the Justice League. They did
and
have that.
he was in Supergirl and the DC TV universe.
Mhm.
They attached him to Supergirl. And they did do Kryptonite, but I can't remember what the different colors did in Superman and Lois.
Mhm.
That's some crazy ass stuff.
Yeah, it is crazy. It's very, very interesting. But I think Bizarro Superman was always like that used to freak me out.
Yeah, in this DC TV, they had our Superman switch worlds with Bizarro, so you had to
I would
figure
say
out which one was which.
why?
Why
Yeah,
would that be?
Why?
Why would that even
Why would that
exist?
even happen?
Right.
It's
some
like
I can't remember who the villain was at the time, but he had powers similar to Superman, and he threw Superman. Superman landed in the other universe,
And why
the
did they even
parallel
look like?
universe.
Why did they even look like that? And here's the thing. It's like you look like Frankenstein in a Superman outfit.
No,
You know,
well,
it's,
in this
Mhm.
one, he looked essentially the same. He was just always angry, and so his brow
no,
was.
that's not right. He should always be like Bizarro. His body is all decrepit.
yeah, it looked all like like his shoulder is higher at one end,
Yeah,
and his
they
face
need
But
is
to
all
keep it
like,
like that.
and his
but the
head
interesting
like
thing is,
Frankenstein. And,
Hmm.
but the interesting thing is with Bizarro is that is as strange, and kind of said, okay, and did you take how much of the ayahuasca did you take when you started writing this? Is that Bizarro had such a thing that it transcended the comics and everything. Thanks mostly, I think, probably to Seinfeld. But now, whenever somebody says, "Well, what Bizarro world are you from?"
Yeah,
people know what you're talking about.
yeah,
yeah, I think most people do. Some younger people may not, but
yeah.
that's some crazy stuff. You got to be taking some
Yes.
heavy shit to be coming up with
To
Mhm.
that.
come up with Bizarro World.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that is something
Well,
else.
they watched the Star Trek episode Mirror Mirror and thought, oh, we'll just apply it to Superman
Yeah, but the way they talk
towards
like
the end.
Bizarro, come on. I mean, you can say that,
Yeah.
but like
I was thinking,
Bizarro,
Bizarro makes me laugh all the
I was
yeah.
time.
Mhm.
being
You
fun.
don't use any prepositions and shit. Like
But
you, you don't
remember
Or
they had
you
an
don't adhere to
animated
grammatical
series?
rules.
Yeah, the animated series Bizarro and Dummy.
And come
Yeah,
on.
but that's it. Then, the Bizarro apparently the most the unemployed people in Bizarro world were anybody who taught English because
Yeah, for
Yeah, come
sure.
on. Come on, man. And then
Oh man.
the worst thing, don't go into like Shazam.
Oh my
Don't go into
gosh.
his back. Don't go into his stuff.
Yeah, that's
They got some talking tigers and it's some
yeah.
crazy, it's some
Shazam is
crazy
yeah.
ish.
That's
It's
hmm
some crazy ish.
yeah. All they
It's
gotta do
definitely
is
some
just
It's
yeah,
definitely mushroom powered.
yeah.
well, what they did finally, and it was a kind of a thing that they never explained why
Hmm.
they worked it out that way. But with Batman, that if he was with the Justice League, he would knew all the Justice League stuff that happened and everything. But in most of the Batman stories, they never mention any of the other superheroes or anything like that. And I think it was Grant Morrison. Finally, a name I remembered came up with this
Hmm.
thing where he had what they called the Black File, and that was where Batman had all the things that happened in the 50s, where Batman met aliens, and there was
Hmm.
Batmite, who was his version of Mr. Mixel-Pitlick, and all the other things that could not be explained, so they just didn't talk about them.
Hmm. So yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
you know some of those artists had to be on drugs because there's a website called Superman is a Dick,
yeah,
and it just
that's
shows you all
great.
this. It shows you all the stuff like that you have these crazy covers,
Hmm.
and of course it has nothing to do with the story inside.
Yeah,
But these
yeah,
covers are like, oh my god, it's like
yeah. It's fantastic. It's like the with the Superman and with Jimmy Olsen and Aquaman, and they're in the desert, and that they both don't have any water, and Superman's holding up the thing of water, saying, "Only one of you can get the water." It's like he has two things of water. He breaks one, so he only
Mhm.
has one, and they're like crawling in the sand toward him to try to get the
and it
water.
had
Oh
nothing
no!
to do with the story inside, but it's what like
Mm,
really
yeah,
really cruel covers like Jimmy, this is what you brought me for Father's Day. I'm taking it back or something like
I'm burning it.
I'm
I'll
returning
burn
it.
it. I'm
I'm
burning it in my
I'm
X-ray
burning with my
vision,
heat vision.
my heat ray vision. Yeah, it's just like this is
This
the best you
crappy
could
gift
get
you
for
get.
me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Say,
And
you're my secret.
Lois,
Absolutely
I don't
great.
love you. Lois, I don't love you anymore. Instead, I love this bee woman that I just met.
Yeah, yeah. It's some of that stuff is great. It is just fantastic. I mean, I used to love those. You could find those comic
Yes,
books.
find that website. Superman is a dick,
Yeah,
Hmm.
it is
and you'll
funny
see
as
all those
hell.
covers.
I hope they still have that. You know.
I think they still do because I looked at it. I think like a couple of months ago.
Oh, that is some great stuff. That is some great stuff. I think you would really enjoy it. Really,
But you don't want to go into Shazam's background. And once again, if anyone's listening, please don't go too far to Shazam's background. We have a talking tiger and various other things. It's worse than it is worse, incredibly worse than Howard the Duck.
no, nothing is worse than Howard the Duck. Nothing.
Yeah. I
The
think I saw
Shazam thing
some.
is worse than Howard the
Mm-mm,
Duck.
it is
It's
not
worse
worse
than
than Howard the Duck.
Hmm.
Howard the Duck is the worst thing ever. And I don't even know if there's any backstory stuff involved because I could not possibly watch that. Just bad.
Yeah. Well,
Just
that was
bad.
back in the days before they thought, yeah, we can take anything Marvel has done and make a series out of it. So yeah,
They
not
were
quite.
wrong. But they were wrong. That did not work.
What was that anyway? I mean, I don't. Once again, not encourage anybody to do any backstory of Howard the Duck. But what the
I
hell was
don't.
Howard the Duck? What the hell was that? What was that?
I think he
No
was
idea.
supposed to be somebody from another planet who ended up stranded on Earth, and he had this 3 foot tall talking duck, and nobody thought that was unusual.
Yeah.
That's
I
it.
mean, the thing that gets me about it is that you have this thing, and he was to hook up with some woman. It's like, but if you're coming from where it is that you're coming from, I presume that the women look like ducks. So why would you
Yeah.
hook up with someone that looks like a regular human being? Why would they look good to you at all? You'd be like, huh, what is this thing?
Yeah, I never understood that either. Yeah, but I never understood why human beings, they make movies. They think that
Hmm.
people from outer space would want to hook up with them.
Yeah, they're looking good. Yeah, no thanks.
It's
No
like
thank you.
I want to hook up with an entirely, different species.
Yeah, I just
I'm
yeah,
looking at that. I'm looking at that panther boy. She sure got it going on. Look at that tail.
yeah, okay, yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
give
It
it
don't
some
make no sense
tail.
to me. It doesn't make sense to me at
Yeah,
all.
it makes sense.
Just not at
It doesn't make
all.
sense.
Well, the thing that would be more like would be like in the American version of Ghost, where Flower decided to hug a bear, and that turned out not to be a good idea. But something like that is more likely to happen. But
But it's like Cranston was talking about CSI.
Hmm.
Dexter has a new show with his
Hmm.
more background. I think
Mhm.
everybody who's a fan of the show pretty much knows Dexter's background, but
Hmm.
they're diving any they're diving any
Doing a
they're
deep
diving more
dive into his
deeply
background.
into
Yeah,
his background and background of his father. And
right.
then I think this year they're coming out with Dexter's son, who apparently is going to carry on his father's um, thing of kill,
Legacy of uh,
killing
yeah,
killers.
killing killers.
Yeah,
when did
NCIS. I was gonna say NCIS has one too. Right now, there's NCIS Origins that's supposed to tell how the NCIS came to be and how what Jethro, the Mark Harmon's character, was evidently involved in all the beginnings of that too. So
Hmm.
you get to see his backstory.
Hmm.
And then of course, the thing is when they do these things, somebody like Mark Harmon or Michael C. Hall, they do the voiceover.
Right.
Yep, Mark Harmon's the producer of the NCIS prequel.
Well, I know, like
So it's Michael
the main
Hall.
things that
It's a
kept me
yeah,
involved, yeah, the
yeah.
Michael C. Hall character is that's the only thing that keeps me in it because that's the only thing that makes it interesting to me is the fact that he's doing the voiceover that ties it into me. But I mean, again, we got a whole show about backstory of himself, his sister, the all the original cast members when they were young. I don't know how
Yeah, and the
deeply they're
thing
going
is,
to dig into
this is
their
the thing about
backgrounds.
this is the thing about doing younger versions of characters that people already
Hmm.
know. So what it is that you look and dress the same way you did when you were like 49, except you
Hmm.
like 24.
And why would
Except
you do that?
you didn't change any. You didn't
Zero in the
change
way of character arc at all. You
you didn't
know?
change you didn't change
well,
you didn't even change your fashion. You
Yeah.
didn't think maybe I go with more blues and pinks or
Right. Right. Anything.
yeah
Nothing.
yeah you
well,
didn't change anything.
well, the other thing about these voiceovers is why are they doing all these voiceovers? I mean, are they writing their biographies or their diary, or who are they talking to when they're reflecting on all of this stuff?
That's
I
true.
think. I think when you said that the Dexter thing is his voiceover because he was shot, right? And he is,
Yeah,
Yeah,
what
he's
Cranston's
his
saying
life
is
is flashing before his
before his
eyes.
eyes.
yeah, but
Exactly.
what
Exactly.
Cranston's right. Who the hell is he talking to? And he's just thinking out loud. Is he
I mean, but he's
thinking?
been taught, but he's been doing this all along. So this is only what he's been
Oh,
doing
so in
all
it we
along.
we we've been in his inner monologue all along.
All along, yeah. So this is not new to us that this is what he's doing, but now he's just doing it reflecting on his life because he was
But
shot.
Who's Mark Harmon talking to?
Um, I think he's writing he found one of his old diaries and he's supposed to be continuing it. I think. I don't remember.
But again, it's going to
But
be an
in the 20 years
entire
that he was,
there's an entire
But in the 20
story of
years he was
backstory, right?
on that show, when was he ever that reflective about anything?
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
that's the
all of a sudden,
point.
you
Is
throw up
he
your
never
parole.
said it before, so now
Right.
he's saying it now.
Well, now
Is his
because
conceit.
I'm in this the sunset of my career.
You sit
I
down
can
and write
look
a
back
diary.
now. Once I can look back now and reflect, on this
Well,
long career that I've had, right?
let me ask you about a diary, though. Is it a
Hmm.
truly a diary if you're writing it after the fact? You're looking back because, I mean, that's the point of a diary, right? Isn't it like should be in real time? Because
Well, maybe a memoir.
if I
Well,
write
maybe
my
it's
life,
writing. Well, some write a memoir. They wait until after it's all over, and maybe using
Hmm.
other older materials in order to fill in the gaps that they have. So maybe he's just doing a memoir.
well, if I tell you, if I wrote a diary of my life
Hmm.
now, I did some
Hmm.
really fantastic shit right there. And then tell you, I'm just telling you right now.
Okay.
At the time, it didn't seem so great,
Yeah.
but then 40 years later, it was some badass stuff. I was flying through the air and jumping through jumping through different things. You know,
Yeah.
Flying through which by what means though?
You said,
I,
"Dear
I don't know. I had the
diary."
super sneakers on.
Said, "Dear
I
diary, now that the statute of limitations has run out, I can
yeah,
talk
I'm
about
telling
the
you.
time I
I
did."
tell the truth.
Ah, there we
That's what
go.
diaries in real time are more true than diaries like memoirs looking back, aren't they?
You know what? Who's to say what types of things people say in their diaries which may or may not be true because they are, telling themselves that everything they did was a-okay, You
It's
never
like,
know.
Hmm.
if something happened to you, you 16, 17-year-old, dear diary, today Penelope slapped me in my face because I tried to kiss her. But then, 30 years later, dear diary, Penelope couldn't resist my
My
loving
manly
lips, my
charms. There we
loving
go.
lips, and she just
Okay, yeah.
melted in my
That's what
arms.
happened. That's right. Yeah. Or you forget all that stuff that happened. You only remember the things you never remember even all that any of that happened at all. You just remember, yeah, I remember, we went on a date, on such and such a day and we got into a car accident. You may not remember anything else before that because it's not so that comes it's the forefront
You
of your
don't remember
thoughts.
that you're the one who caused the accident.
Yeah, or even that.
Yeah, that's
You
why
just remember there was an accident.
real. You're right. Real time diaries are more
Or the other
unique
thing
to
that
the.
happens is you remember something that happened. But it also
Yeah,
happens you have the phenomenon that you remember something that happened to people you know,
Hmm.
and they don't remember it, and they think you're hallucinating and say, "No, that really happened. Seriously, that happened." No, really.
So you don't remember that? No, I don't remember that. No, not at all. But I mean, it's like even this now, and we talk about this backstory thing because now, like you said, we're getting into these memoir shows. Now everyone's putting on these television shows. I guess because they already own the franchise,
right.
so they're just gonna go and just keep digging until people make them stop. You know, I because they
And the
already
other
know these
thing that happens
characters.
with
Hmm.
and the other thing that happens with backstories is if you look back at it and you say, "Well, wait a minute," like for example, in the Journey to Babel of Star Trek, that's when that James Kirk found out about Spock's family, and I'm thinking that it's watching it in one of the endless reruns and stuff. So he had no idea who Spock's family was, and
Hmm.
Spock never mentioned his sister or his brother until they just happened to come up.
Mm.
So why is that?
Well, there
How
was a reason, or they gave the reason in Discovery why he never mentioned his sister. There was
can,
a law or whatever passed, whatever the proper term is for Star Trek, that no one ever mentioned the Discovery or their crew. So he couldn't talk about her or face criminal punishment. So they covered that one. I have, and they did mention his brother. Um, I think it was more in the sense that Spock went, "I have a brother."
I
Mhm.
mean,
So
that's unreal because if you work with someone, just like a normal work,
Hmm.
like even like several years, not like a
mhm.
10 or 15, you're gonna know stuff about them.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah,
it's just normal human intercourse.
but,
Just
but that's what Spock's not human, so that's just
but I'm gonna ask.
He's
He could say,
partially.
yeah, he's
He's
gonna say,
partially him.
well,
yeah.
I'm,
That's why they put that in there that no one could ever talk about anybody connected to Discovery.
but I can
Or
ask. I can say, hey, Spock, where you from? He said, well, I can't tell you. It's a crime.
well, he could talk about his side, but he couldn't talk about his sister. And he was, and so far in Strange New Worlds, he was actually shocked he had a brother.
So he could talk about it if he didn't know about it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't
Yeah,
know
but
about
it
it, you can't talk
also
about it.
presupposes that there's no Google in the 24th century. Okay,
Yep.
Sarek
Right.
and
Or
his
Ancestry.com or some shit. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and they took out the sister out of all, and them all, anybody connected with Discovery. They took them all out of the records.
Huh.
yeah, how convenient.
I said, look, we're trying to fix this thing the best way we can. All right.
Right.
Yeah.
And
But what
just
about
leave us
this? Oh,
alone.
I don't know.
Now
No, the
it's
latest one in Star Trek that you have to worry about is how does the descendant of Khan, how does Kirk not know that the descendant of Khan served as chief security officer of the Enterprise before he took over?
He forgot.
So far, they've been handling it that the Kirk who knows has been from different timelines.
Stop.
okay.
Stop with the
Let's see.
damn
Okay,
timeline.
y'all. Just come on,
Stop with
y'all.
the damn timeline.
Like sometimes you'll just say, I don't know.
Yeah,
You
I
say,
don't know.
I
I
don't
forgot.
know.
I could have went back and read the
I'm
log.
yeah. I'm just
I
But
would-
I
minding
didn't
my
do it
business. I
because
don't
I'm
know.
You
too
know,
damn
the
lazy.
Discovery one, erasing all the any mention of the Discovery ones was more realistic than Kirk going, huh? There was a con on board?
Yeah, exactly.
but
So, what? I don't know.
but it
So,
could work out in real life if somebody says, well, why didn't you do this, that, and the other? Oh, you must have asked the one from the other timeline to do that.
yeah, that's what I'm gonna say
I'm
at
this
work. I'm
this
gonna
is
say at
not my
work.
timeline,
I'm gonna
so
say that
Yeah.
at work. But they say, how come you didn't finish that project that you're supposed to? Oh, that you gave me that assignment in a different timeline.
Mm.
I didn't know it
and it
existed.
was and it was good.
Yeah. They said,
Mm.
but you're gonna get paid in a different timeline, and your ass gonna be terminated in this timeline.
Yeesh.
So yeah, sometimes they tell backstory and then realize that it contradicts previous backstories, so they have to retcon it. It's like, yeah, timeline thing. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. And the timeline just is a safety net, right? Timeline
Yep.
Mhm.
and dreams
Yeah.
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 and dreams.
The
Because I
only
think there
one that
was there's a Jeopardy category about films or movies that dealt with dreams. I forgot
Oh
the
yeah.
yeah.
We did what? We did a category not too long ago regarding that. Shows with dreams in
Movies
them.
that deal
Yeah.
with
yeah,
dreams.
because we talked
Yeah.
about Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How the dream
So
in
that
Dallas validated the whole season of Knots Landing.
that's the safety net, dreams and timelines.
Mm.
So yeah, when you do get a backstory and it's not quite canon.
Mhm.
And the thing is, just like a diary, it's like who's telling your timeline? Who's telling your backstory? It's
Mhm.
like, is it you? Then it may be a little bit off kilter. If it's somebody else, like say, well, Sonia did this, and then Sonia did that, and then Sonia did that,
You
as
Right.
must
opposed
have
to
dreamed it
Sonia
all.
saying her own backstory. Some stuff she may not have a clear view.
Right.
Yeah,
well, that's
misremembered.
well, that's
Yeah.
why we have the concept of the unreliable narrator, which covers
Absolutely.
everything else and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like in 30 Rock when
Mhm.
Liz Lemon looks back on her high school career and thinks about how all the other girls are bullies and then finds out that she actually was the person who was the mean girl. But she didn't realize it at the time. Only after she looked back did she realize, oh my gosh, I was the mean girl. But
Mhm.
she had no idea, contemporaneously. So in that sense, sometimes contemporaneously people are not aware of what's going on. You know,
I don't think you can be. I think that you can't really your backstory when your memory every time you
Mhm.
recall a memory it changes, right? That's what people say.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
That's what they
That's the
say. And I
new.
believe that's true. I think it's true.
I don't know.
I think it's
I
Mhm.
true.
don't
I
know.
think you add a little bit, take a little bit,
I don't know
embellish a
about
little
that.
bit.
I
You
don't
know,
know about that.
Well, because brain cells die or change or whatever, so it could morph a little.
I think it morphs a lot. I think it just.
I don't know. I don't know how much I agree
Just
with
like
that.
when somebody dies, you can't speak you can't speak bad of the dead, so all your memories start to reflect only the good things that you remember and not remember a lot of the bad
Unless
Not
or
they
me.
own money.
downplays.
Not me.
I was gonna say unless they or downplays a lot of the
Yeah,
bad.
Well, it's just,
because
no,
we
it's,
always know
that's the
about.
thing is they don't speak ill of them. They don't say we
Well,
can't
Mhm.
think ill of them. You know, I have my thoughts.
does Hitler count? Does Hitler count? Can we talk evil about him? Is it
Well, I
okay?
mean, that's what people say don't speak ill of the dead. So I'm not speaking ill of them. I'm only saying what they did. Now, if the thing they did was a
Yeah,
bad thing, they did that.
right, right,
I'm not, I'm not putting applying judgment to what they did. They just did
right,
it.
right.
So
Exactly.
there we go.
Yeah,
There you
you
go.
just
Well,
did it,
you know what?
and,
Yeah, they
and,
did
and
that.
what you did was evil. So
Yeah, if you did it and it was evil, then that's what you did, and that's what it
stop
was.
thinking evil. Stop thinking evil of me.
I'm not. I'm just thinking what you did, and if you did the thing, it was evil. Then I'm just thinking about what you did. You know.
There's an episode I just saw yesterday of Love, Death, and Robots called where they had this company with you could choose ultimate timelines, and they showed what would have happened if you could go. But one of the more popular ones, if you could go back and kill Hitler, and what would happen as a result, and generally it would end up kind of bad for most of them. And then the last one, they showed another popular
Mhm.
timeline, and they had one of Lincoln holding a gun, and it says, in this timeline, Lincoln shot first.
That's good. I like it. All right. Well, guys, I'm looking at my time, and I'm sure you all too that we're getting up there near. Well, okay, we're after shut off time, but still, um, anything that we have to announce coming up the next couple of weeks? We got birthdays, we got anniversaries, anything of interest coming up. I am serious. My one thing I have to say is I'm very uh, interested in doing a Penelope Flynn show on the 25th, on
Mhm.
the date when all the planets are supposed to line up. So I'm really thinking seriously if I can get it done, start up this week, then I'll do it. But I'm thinking of doing a show where we can talk about get online and find something that's showing that lineup where all the planets are supposed to line up on January 25th. I think it'd be very, very fun, very interesting. So
Mhm.
that's out there
And then
in
they
the ether.
crash into one another. Then they
Hmm?
crash into one another. And
That
then
would be
all the
something.
planets crash into
That
one
would be
another.
something. Yeah,
Like
that would
God playing
definitely be
pool.
something.
Like
Mhm.
God playing pool.
Wasn't there an Aztec
You know.
prophecy or somebody made a prophecy about when the planets align?
I don't know. Let's look it up and see. And we'll talk about it.
Yeah,
It'd
God
be
playing
fun.
but
pool.
they've done it before. But it's happened so many in our lifetimes. It's happened so many times. That's how they did the Voyager, because all the planets were lined up, so they were pretty much in a straight line, and they could get pictures of everybody going across. So yeah, but I think two things that we missed is that January
Hmm.
1st was the day that the things passed into public domain. So we
Hmm.
missed that one, and I think January 3rd is World Science Fiction Day because that was
Second,
Asimov's
January
second.
2nd.
Yeah, Isaac Asimov's
That's my
birthday.
birthday. The
Okay.
third was World Buffet Day, I think, something like that.
Oh, and I missed it.
Yeah, none of the buffet places celebrated World Buffet Day for some reason.
Well,
I'll
Never
be
eat.
smart.
Never eat at a buffet, guys. Never eat at a buffet.
Okay. All right. And I just ran here, got this threw together right quick a link about the lining up of the planets, and I'll just drop it here. What is the planet parade thing? And so there, what is
I
planet
see it.
parade? Okay. So if anybody wants to check that out, I just threw something up quickly. To the
Well,
line up
let
of
me
the
ask you
planet.
this. Let me ask you
Yes.
this. When this happens, would it be something that people can see with the naked eye, or
Apparently, yeah, you're supposed to be
we
able to
just
see it.
know that it happened?
Yeah, supposedly right now you can see 4 of the planets lining up um in the sky.
Wow.
They're not quite there, and I can't remember which direction you're supposed to look in the sky, but somebody had a picture, and they did a time lapse, so you could see the planets slowly, very, very slowly moving in alignment.
Into alignment. Yeah, so I think it'll be very, very cool.
Our inevitable death being slowly coming together.
Marching toward, yeah.
Yep. All lining up. But Cranston
It's a
said it.
straight. I was
Cranston
gonna
said
say
it happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
Now they're
So
saying here, they're
why is it a
saying
big
that.
deal if it happens all the time?
hmm I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. So I mean, maybe it does happen all the time, and I overselling it because I thought it
Yeah.
was interesting.
it's a
But
straight shot for when the aliens
Every
hit one. It can
30,
go
40
through.
years. Something like that.
Because they have the place on the 18th, the Abu Dhabi, I guess the best place to see the lineup,
Abu Dhabi.
and on the 18th also Hong Kong,
Would you
Okay,
go there?
first Tokyo.
Otto's taking us all to Hong Kong so we can see it.
All
No, I
right,
mean, would you
January
go to?
22nd, New York,
Would you fly
and
to Abu? Would you
future
fly to
Athens.
Abu Dhabi to experience that?
I got friends
It
there.
depends.
We could find somebody.
It depends on whether it's something that you only would see, once in a
Yeah,
lifetime, or or the next
Well,
time they show, I'm going to be
if
too old to go. So yeah, maybe.
if if you would take your Learjet to Nova Scotia to see the total eclipse of the sun,
There we
sure,
go.
why not?
I would do that. I would
You
do
know
that.
what? I would definitely do that.
I would do that.
And someone wrote a song about it. They could kiss my ass because I'm doing it. Because I saw the solar eclipse of the sun in 2024. It was kick ass. So I would
Spectacular.
definitely take my Learjet
Yep,
to
it
Nova
was
Scotia.
spectacular.
Oh yeah, man, that was great.
Yeah, absolutely spectacular. I would definitely. I mean,
we were
we're thinking
supposed to
about
have.
the next
Yeah,
ones that are coming up in what, like Portugal or Spain. We're thinking about flying out
I'm
to
taking my
watch it.
Learjet. I'm taking the jet out.
hmm Yep, yep, yep. So there
My
we go.
lucky, my lucky will
Don't
crash
even
into
say
the
it. Don't
Atlantic
say
Ocean.
it. Don't say it. Don't put it in me
My
either,
luck,
man.
it'll crash into the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay, I'm not going
no,
with you, man.
that
I
would be
take it. Huh?
that would be SpaceX. No, that
Yeah,
would be a Boeing. As long as you make sure it's not a Boeing, you're
Yeah.
fine.
yeah. We hope we'll be okay. All right. Well, guys, it's that time. We get ready to
Sam and Dave,
get this.
Sam and Dave passed away,
Yeah,
and I
it
think it
just
was weren't they a Floridian group? Didn't it originate from Florida?
let's
Sam and
see.
Dave.
Let's see
Now,
what they say.
somebody told me he's originally from Miami, so that was the
Yeah,
connection.
that probably makes sense. Yeah, because we are, in Florida, in Miami area, and they said, it's a group put together 61 to 1981. I'm in the Wikipedia. La la la. Do, 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 do. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Just talking about the early years.
Old-fashioned soul group.
Yeah.
Sam and
Okay.
Dave.
Would they say they were Sam Moore and Dave Prater's early musical backgrounds involved listening to and singing gospel music in their homes and churches, and in Dave's case, also singing gospel in the choir in his church. Dave later sang with his older brother J.T. Prater and the gospel group The Sensational Hummingbirds, who recorded Lord
I remember
Teach Me
those.
in the
Yep.
50s. Sam
Yep.
recorded Nighty Night, Caveman Rock in 1954 with the doo-wop group The Majestics, and later sang with the gospel groups The Gales and The Millionaires. Moore and Prater listed Jackie Wilson, Sam Cooke as influences on their styles.
Mhm.
So I'm still looking here to see. Okay, they were saying that they, of course, are saying a label owned Marlin label owned by Miami's Henry Stone, and Stone helped sign them to Roulette Records in New York City. So I mean, obviously it's a Miami connection, so I gather it must have meaning. And then they went to Stax and performed at Stax. And I'm just seeing that they do not seem to just say, "Hey, this is where they're from." So
It's
I'm sure it's
incomplete.
somewhere.
Yeah, it got to be to somewhere. But he's passed. Sam passed away, so the only Dave's left. I think.
Mm,
Thought Dave already passed away.
Did Dave pass away too?
He's on
uh,
Wikipedia.
so that would be the end of Sam and Dave in
This
this dimension, at
timeline.
least. Yes.
In this timeline.
Yes. Yep.
In another timeline, they're still rocking.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's it.
All right. Well, thank you for letting us know passage of these music giants. You know. So, anything else you want to put out there for the upcoming week? This we got coming on. I know after this week it will be another after this week before we roll up on MLK Day, but that's also coming up pretty quickly on the 20th.
which
So,
is also Inauguration Day.
so there we go. Interesting. So yeah, that's a thing. So there we go, y'all. So anything else we got to report?
My cousin had a birthday on the 8th. I don't know if I wished him happy birthday last week.
All right, cool beans. Happy birthday to your cousin then. And I think I don't know anybody else other than one of my aunts, but she was already passed. But this would have been her birthday, January the 11th. Yep. So there, so we
There's
say,
supposed to be some great another star alignment, I think, this tonight. 111. I can't remember which one it is, though.
all right, we'll go online and we'll look and see what star alignment is tonight.
It's
What
either the star or the moon supposed to be doing something tonight. I don't remember which.
Exploding.
That's when the planets all come in alignment. See, so the shrapnel will flip off of us and go to all the other planets because we'll all be in a row. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Penelope and I was watching the Twilight Zone episode, The Midnight Sun, and before, you watch those movies or those shows as a kid, and you think, "Oh, what an impossibility!" But it's like if that happened, the trajectory of the Earth, went toward the sun or away from the sun. It seems more possible now that could happen than when we were kids, right? It just seems
Why do
that
you
way.
think so?
I don't know.
Why do you think so?
I don't
Because
know.
we
I don't
know
know.
more and we've messed with the planet more. We now know how fragile that the tilt that we have to our Earth is important to everything.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm just think
because
that
this is
it's more
feeding off
likely,
the
or just
fire.
that are you saying it's more likely, or just more likely that we would know about it?
I think that the more we know more about it, and so we know that the possibility of it happening is more of a possibility than it is as opposed to someone's putting it in a script, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that can happen.
It's
You
more
know,
science than science fiction.
Right,
yeah,
right,
right,
right.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know, if that's a thing that could be a thing. I don't know. This is another thing on YouTube I just found regarding the planetary parade that's supposed to be occurring. So there's some more information such that you want to use it again. But now we're up another 9:40 our time. It's 10:40 your time. I'm ready to bring this to a close. So thank you all very much for joining us this evening, and those of you all who will be listening to it later on. If you have any questions, comments, critiques, definitely get in touch with us here at Discussions from the Otherhood. Get me at Penelope at penelopeflynn.com, and let
Share,
us
like,
know
and
what it is.
subscribe.
Yeah, like, subscribe, do those things as well. Right here, Discussions for the Otherhood. Um, if you have a topic that you would like for us to cover, don't be shy. Just let us know, and we will get right on it. So, again, have a wonderful remainder of your weekend. Stay warm or cool, depending on what coast you're on. And all you all out in California, I hope that taking care of yourselves, getting out of the path of these fires, and that whatever it is, and hopefully things will, I don't know, we have better days tomorrow. So again, have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you again next week here in the Other Hood. Good night.
Good
See ya.
night.
Good night.
Good night.